And we're live. We're live with Selena Moon and John Mueller. So they started a whole new earth. So not people to be trifled with. And I'd love to hear, love to talk to these two people. Already have. And brief disclaimer: I'm working with them for them. So I already look up to them in many ways, and I'm a huge fan of their work and their presence and the love and compassion that they bring to every call. Um, I'd love for you to do an introduction of what you do and how you do it, and then we'll dive in as something fun. If you could give me a brief blurb of your New Earth and your coaching program and what you do together. Thank you.
Yeah, so we basically came together with a similar vision, which was to create a space for people who are very potent and powerful and holding that high frequency energy to actually get exposure and develop themselves at such a high level in their leadership abilities and in their ability to transform and impact others and in their ability to grow their businesses if they so choose. We wanted to create a space for them to excel in, a platform, a coaching program, a system, a community, and essentially a culture where people could come in and really engage from their hearts and their spirits and in a very practical way. You know, John and I have seen a lot of light workers and coming in with these amazing gifts, but in such ungrounded ways that it could never actually translate into anything that was building them some sort of like meaningful wealth. So we just decided we were going to come together, activate light leaders, help them create meaningful wealth, and develop this idea of an opulent new earth. Do you want to add to
Well, I don't know if I can answer that, but hello, everyone who's watching this. I'm John Muller, and yeah, I think you wanted a little backstory, right, Shay? And
Yeah,
so,
sure. Because,
okay,
so just straight from the horse's mouth. I've experienced some of this and I'll add to it, but yeah, I just wanted a brief blurb from you guys. So.
oh, cool. Yeah, we're super happy to be helping conscious people. Like when we got started, there wasn't a lot of support in business, kind of strategy and support for conscious leaders. And I was missing that. I needed that. And I put in the time to learn a lot of that stuff. And thus, I can now help other people with it. But we want to make sure that it's an easy gap to bridge for those who are conscious leaders and light workers and healers and coaches. And someone who has a spiritual gift, sometimes like those who are the most gifted are also the least famous and also just like have the least business knowledge. And I know because I lived in a spiritual community for years and there's gems all over the place. There's people who are just immaculate and just no one in the world's ever heard of them and no one ever would. And we just want to make sure that people like this get a platform and get to be discovered by the people looking for their help.
Yeah. Well said.
Thanks.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for setting the tone, guys. And I've recently joined part of your communities, and I can attest to that. The people I've met there are amazing, and just I know Selena, you've set up a community in Toronto. I know John, you've led workshops and you've taught people in your monastery as well. So yeah, to just the backgrounds themselves, give a lot of credence, but the energy and presence you guys bring is definitely something, is the reason why I want to work with you, even though initially I barely knew you. But I guess,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess that gets me to the second point. How, very briefly, I understand, John, you were an addictions counselor. You you're a monk. You're a digital marketing expert. You've set up a lot of people with that, and you both have both the intuition and the practical side. And Selena, of course, from what I understand, you've got a psychology background, psychosomatic, NLP, and just one of the most psychic people I've met
Thank
ever. So the two of you really have that yin and yang, both within yourselves and outside. But how'd you get here? Like, if I want to get there, and I'm sure lots of people would want to get there. So with maybe since I started with John, maybe you could talk about your journey and how you got to this place.
That's a good question. Well,
you.
they I didn't practice Zen Buddhism, but I read some Zen Buddhist books. And there's a story of this guy that was called Blue Mountain. And he would say to everyone, like people wanted to be like him, and he would say, there's no path to Blue Mountain, right? And just like at some point we got to get lost in the journey. And we can't really replicate someone else's results.
Mm.
But I can say for me, like, yeah, just following my purpose, following what I felt was my purpose, and saying no to things that felt like traps along the way that were designed for security or that were fear-based. And I just decided that, yeah, there's a story of Viktor Frankl, right? When he was in Auschwitz, and he was a psychiatrist, right? He was a doctor. And so he was valuable. And there were all these whispers that, like, hey, everyone, on Wednesday, Camp A is, they say Camp A is going here, but actually Camp A is everyone's going to die. And so stay in Camp B. And there'd be things like this. And sometimes those were true, and sometimes they were not true. You didn't know if the rumors were true or not. And so he decided to not listen to that and just go wherever he could be the most service. And he followed that. And that was his purpose, was helping people and being of service. And that led him all the way out. And now he's developed a whole way of psychology based on this. And so I try to, at some point in my life, I started to do this too. And just like not pay attention to like cues from the outside of everyone says this or this. And I just did like, what is the best thing for me to do right now? According to a divine plan, like a higher plan, like how can I serve the most? And that has led me step by step into places that for me were very good, like being a monk and all that stuff. Everyone else has their own path, but it's the internal following of that path is always going to be the same. Basically, I think it's like, how can I serve others the most? How can I grow the most? How can I say yes to my divine nudges? How can I say no to everything else, including fear? I feel like that's the best formula.
Wow.
That's awesome. It's really deep. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Selena, come on.
So I don't know, like
Wanna
I have
follow
a kind of
that?
an opposite story.
I mean,
Yeah,
like-
I know you can,
like-
clearly.
Like I was born into a family where like, and I guess in just like my soul and my essence, like service was just like, I don't have to think about service. It's not something that I need to consider because it's something that I think I naturally am called to. It's not something that I need to like put thought into. It's kind of just who I am. It's a reflection of, I think maybe other lifetimes I've just always been in service. So I feel like in this lifetime, it wasn't a lesson for me to learn how to be in service. I grew up in a community where like volunteerism was really important. And just, I was always encouraged to share my time and my energy with people. And it always came very naturally to me. So it was not ever something I resisted doing. And I never really had to learn how to do it. It just, that part's really simple for me. The part that I think is actually harder for me is actually being balanced with serving others and serving myself. So like I came out from a series of, I would say like, I call them like points of rejection in my life, where I just felt like repeatedly rejected by family, society, religious programming, and then like going into the business world and getting completely rejected in so many places there. Like I was probably like the number one reject in my own mind of like anything that I ever tried. I just always felt like I was getting rejected. And so that was my path, like the path of rejection. Like every time I got rejected, I was like, okay, well, if rejection is God's protection, then like, why am I trying to get into these spaces that don't belong to me? Like clearly these people don't resonate with me, or I'm trying to serve in spaces that aren't vibing with how I'm showing up. And I was like trying to like contort myself to try to show up in different ways. And then I started feeling weird because I was contorting myself and I was losing my authenticity. So I had to like go through this like really intensive process to realize like I don't actually need to sacrifice my authenticity. Most of the world is learning how to be in service, and I get that, but that's not my lesson, which is weird because, you know, I just found I always had different lessons than everybody else. So if I would go into regular spaces, I would never learn anything. So I had to find a way to learn new things that other people weren't learning. And so I had to really turn within. And that's really where I started paying a lot of attention to my inner divinity, to speaking to God regularly. I just became like really obsessed with Rumi from the age of 8. I had like the poetry book of Rumi Shimmering Light right beside my bedside from like age 8. I went through a series of really troubling experiences with a sibling where I felt bullied most of my life. And I just never really felt like I had parents that could actually spiritually and emotionally support me, although I was very physically supported. And so I had to find ways to develop myself emotionally and spiritually. And I also had to find ways to feel protected because I never felt safe. Plus, I was consistently being rejected because everywhere I went, I never fit in. So between all these different elements that were pulling at me, it just kept pushing me to go inside, pushing me to go inside, pushing me to go inside till I just really discovered the light inside. And when I discovered the light inside, I brought that into my own experience by honoring that, cherishing those aspects of myself, but also knowing that I accepted myself for those. And the more I accepted myself for those, the more I found that I was able to create communities who also accepted that. So that's kind of my journey.
No, that's awesome. I was like, how does she gonna, match that? But you definitely did. And I love Rumi and I love Viktor Frankl too. And
Yeah.
and I'm trying to find the commonality, and you two work really well together. So
Yeah,
thanks for sharing. That was very deep,
absolutely.
both of you. And
Yeah.
so from what I understand, it's finding that purpose, going within is the common thread. And
Mm-hmm.
for you was focusing more analytically perhaps initially, and then going within through the monastery, John, and figuring out how you can best serve and how you can improve. And for you, it was kind of taking away the obstacles to tap inwards to kind of
Mm-hmm.
get to where you are now. So that's awesome. And both of you seem to have, through your inner work, been able to reflect that outward. So I guess I'm also curious about the catalyst. Part of me just wants to talk about Rumi and Viktor Frankl because Rumi is probably my favorite poet, and especially at this maybe 5 years ago, I came across Viktor Frankl, The Meaning of Life, and just first I was like, oh, I don't know. I've read a couple of books that talk about the Holocaust and they can be tough. This was the most enlightening book that one of the most enlightening books I've read. So this is great. I didn't know that about either of you. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely vibing with those. Anyone who hasn't read, if either of those people would love to dive in, whatever stage of your journey you're on, I imagine you two would agree that Rumi and or
Yeah,
Viktor Frankl both could help in different ways, right? Right?
definitely.
Totally.
Maybe.
Totally.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
All right, what else? We got lots to cover. We can dive in anywhere. The theme for today is green because I woke up today and saw a green car. And I want to try to
Oh,
be heart-centered because that's a lot of what I admire about both of you. You're present and heart-centered. So that's it's a dark green shirt. We got some green up
looks
there.
great.
Yeah, I went outside. I mean, trees are blooming. There's lots of green there, and lots of people were wearing green, and it wasn't just the green car as soon as I saw when I woke up. So that is the weird theme for today as of now. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah. Throw in as much green. And I'm also relatively green at this. So cards out on the table. So just putting
Nice.
that out there. So bear with me, have the patience and compassion that you do with all your clients. And yeah. So what were the catalysts? I guess part of your journey. I'm still curious to go a little bit deeper into the catalysts. So what switched? So I mean, I heard the pain. I guess we'll switch back and forth. So I guess Selena, I heard,
Okay.
you went inward. So the catalysts, I guess, for you with a family or the harsher environment of being in environments that weren't resonating, that forced you to kind of go within, or if you could,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah. So and were there significant sort of moments apart from Rumi, or was there a specific training or something that really like what would your roots be in terms of say a spiritual training or an intuitive coaching training? Because you've got the results, but I was again just wondering more about your path.
Yeah. There was a few catalysts that show up in my life, like different. So catalysts for me personally showed up through very different ways. So one of them was through like drama. And so like the ability to go on stage, I was always like chosen as like the lead in every drama production I ever got involved with. So it really put me in a position to own my power, even though in the household and in the religious energies, I didn't quite feel like I was really myself. In those spaces, I felt like I could just like be myself fully, even if I was playing the role of another character, because it was just a way of expressing, getting parts of myself out. So that ended up being like a super big catalyst for me because the way that the audiences would respond to my roles just made me realize, like, wow, I actually have a gift of speaking, and I actually have a gift of communication and self-expression. And even though I don't have avenues of expression within spaces where I'm always in, I always had like the drama to go to. And I just, that was life changing for me, like absolutely life changing for me in my early stages. And it brought me into like speech and debate tournaments and things like that, where I could just like learn all these different unique ways to express myself. And I just always would take home so many awards and things like that. So it was kind of like I was getting that reflection, like, hey, wait, there's actually a channel of expression that will make me feel more aligned and in tune with myself. So expression was always like a really big part of my own journey and being a catalyst for change. And the second one was like, I went traveling through Madrid when I was like in my early 20s. I went backpacking and I got robbed. And I was just by myself, and I like got robbed of everything, like my visa, my passport, my money, like everything. And I didn't find out until I got to the hostel that I was going to stay at. And I opened my bag and everything was gone. And I just like, I actually laughed. Like it was like my first impression was just to laugh. And I just was like, wow, thank you. I finally have an opportunity to learn what it feels like to dig deeper within myself and discover the divine. And that was like my first biggest awakening moment of my life. I ended up at a police station to like document that my passport had gone missing. I wrote like one of the funniest poems I've ever written my whole life, just watching everyone in the station and just reflecting on all of their experiences. And I was like, this is so cool. And then I ended up manifesting a ton of people who wanted to house me, take me out for meals. I had a better experience with these people than anything I would have had while having my own like passport and everything. Like I had to like wait for a few days because it was Canada Day. The Canadian embassy was closed. Like there were so many different things that I had to wait for to get an emergency passport. And these people just showed up and like treated me like royalty. And that experience in itself was a huge catalyst for me too, because it showed me like the power of just like surrender and trusting that even though when it seems like things are going wrong, they're actually going to go 10 times better than they would have. And I just need to believe and trust that. So that was like, those were the two big things for me.
Wow, no, that's really
Yeah.
deep. It feels almost that you getting on stage and acting and helps you be more authentic. So playing a role helps you
Yeah.
tap into your own authenticity, which is
Yeah,
ironic, but
it
awesome.
is.
The surrender part is huge. So I feel like you get the hard knock lives, and it forces you to recalibrate. And I think that's how it works for a lot of times for me and everyone I know, and that's huge. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're
And John,
welcome.
any other catalysts you can think of? I mean, how'd you jump in? You read a few books, family, so, or was it
Yeah,
a natural progression? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no. I had an interest in psychology, so like there was a thread that I found that I was able to follow, but there were several really important catalysts that helped me. One of them was getting arrested
I
for
did not know about this.
yeah. So basically, what happened was it was I at a spur of the moment decided to drive home to my parents' house from Oneonta, where I went to school. It was like a 2 hour drive, and I was doing it at like three, let's just say around 2, 3 in the morning. For some reason, it just felt like the right thing to do, and I happened to have a little bit of weed pot in the car, and I got pulled over, and the person didn't. He just kind of thought something was up for some reason, and he like searched. He found it, and basically, my parents had to come pick me up on the side of the road from an hour away at like 4 in the morning, and yeah, so I got arrested for that, and for some reason it had registered that I didn't have a license even though I did, and so that's why I couldn't even drive the car.
Wow.
And so anyway, that became a catalyst. I lost my license for 2 years. I wasn't able to drive for 2 years. And it finally helped me to do the thing that I wanted to do which to stop smoking pot. I had been smoking it, and for 2 years before that moment, I knew I needed to stop. I wanted to stop. It was all the signs were there to stop, and I couldn't get myself to actually stop. For some reason, like I did, and then I went back into it because of a heartbreak, and I just got lost in it, right? And but I knew I needed to. Like a catalyst had happened 2 years prior due to falling in love with somebody, but like that turned into this heartbreak thing, right? And so anyway, I lost my license for 2 years. I had to spend a lot more time alone. I stopped smoking pot, and I just had a summer at my parents' house where I totally reinvented myself over the summer.
Wow.
Because I just had all this space. I wasn't doing anything. There was nothing to fill it with. I avoided all these things because there was the arrest component. I was also just like, I don't know, like being more mindful of like what I got myself into, or something. Everything aligned, and I had a summer where I recreated myself, and it was phenomenal. And so that happened right before my final year of school, of university. And that year is when everything came together. Like I became more like awake every single month. I would look back and be like, oh my God, I'm so much more awake now. I was so foggy before. And next month I'd say the same thing. And what it was is my spiritual potential was ripening. And I just had all these clouds and things that covered it were just being taken away, right? And I ended up, I got a girlfriend that year, which was like my first like serious girlfriend in my whole life, and it was really, really helpful for me. I realized that I wanted to be a therapist that year. That was the year that I got fully on track with my purpose. I was really, really drifting before that. I realized that I needed a 4.0 that year in order to get an overall 3.0 in my all of college in order to get into grad school, and I did it. I set my mind to it, and I did it, which was cool. And I started to discover spirituality. Started to through books. I started to believe in past lives, future lives, other things. And at the very end of that year, a book on Buddhism blew my mind wide open. And it was a book that my mom had given me that I just wasn't ready for. Then at some point I was. It changed everything. And I went to the bookstore and I bought all these books. And one of them was by someone who founded the temple that I ended up moving to later.
Wow.
And his picture spoke to me. I was going to the bookstore, and I realized while I was there that what I really wanted was a teacher who knew from his own experience. I realized that while I was in the bookstore. I saw the little picture on the back of this book called 8 Steps to Happiness, right? And I saw the picture, and there's this monk, and he looked so happy and joyful and free. And I was like, I bet you, like, I want to learn how to be happy like he's happy. I bet you I could learn from this guy. And I read the book, and I loved it, and I practiced it, and it planted all these seeds so that later, like a year and a half later, when I went to the temple, not knowing that they were connected, I was already in line with all the beliefs and all the prayers, and I already knew that what they were doing is beneficial. And like, it didn't take any convincing. I was ready. And so those are a bunch of things. But anyway, that was a big part of my journey.
That's awesome. That was a roller coaster, but wow. I was like scared for you. I was so proud of you. And then yeah, thanks for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
Trey, did you want to add something to that? Or you
Me?
can go on. Yeah, no.
Oh, I can go. I mean,
What was the name of the book, I guess, is what I was curious.
The first book was called Buddhism is Not What You Think. It's a Zen Buddhist book. It was, at the time, it was like so helpful. And I went back to it later to see what I could find in it. It's a good book, but it just like hit the spot in that moment. You know what I mean? And it was just what I needed, I think. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, thank you. Hey, I'm all your clients and me, your employee / friend / very, very grateful that you did go through that journey, because you can now share, both of you, what you've, what you went through, and it's kind of, making lemonade out of oranges, for lack of a better way to put it. But that's kind of the journey in the most simplified way that I can see. And I guess it's that timing, I guess, for both of you. It's ready to receive the message, and it's kind of guiding us to a point where we are. And I've seen you both lead people in the class in ways that are very empowering, but also hold space. Have you both resonated with being a teacher, or do you? So I guess I did want to cover a few points about, of course, your business model, how you got there, the community you've built, leadership. So there's a few inner work and spirituality. So I'm going to throw those out there. But right now, I guess we could start with a bit of your leadership skills, because I think that's one of the biggest things that both of you bring to the business, as far as I've experienced. And it's come through your inner work spirituality, but it's helped create a business and a community. So I think the central aspect is you become leaders within yourselves. You mastered yourselves to degrees where you can spread that out and create all of that. So how'd you become leaders? I think we started with Selena last, so we'd start with John now. I think that's the
Sure.
format I'm going with.
Oh, okay. I'll
So
say
I'm
that
ready
I
to
feel
answer,
like,
so I thought I'd, mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, no problem. Um, Leadership is not something that came naturally to me, actually. It wasn't my disposition, let's say. Um, I'm really flowy as a person. I can flow really easily into things. I can just go with the flow, right? That's my disposition. And I've always, what's that?
No, I just said I can
You've never
attest to that.
experienced me like that. I know, I never do
We're
that.
doing this
Yeah.
now. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, how about I interview you right now?
Wait, you could totally do that.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And so, leadership was hard for me. And when I first learned marketing, I gravitated to marketing, and a lot of people do when they want to avoid sales. Like a lot of people think marketing is a thing that will help their business, and a lot of us think, oh, I never have to like have the uncomfortable sales conversation if I just get really good at marketing. And there can be truth to that potentially, but what I found is even when I got pretty good at a certain type of marketing, I had to sell my own service. Like I couldn't get paying clients unless I sold them the service. And so it made me at some point realize I gotta learn how to do these sales conversations. And for me, yeah, a previous business partner helped me to connect the concepts of leadership and sales together, and that was a big aha moment for me, and he demonstrated it very well. And so once I started to see, leadership and sales as being the same, and leadership as being the thing that allowed me to enroll other people into my vision, right, and help them, then I really embraced it, and I leaned in, and I have natural gifts at it because I'm naturally good with people. So I suppose that if you take the concept of leadership and look at it in just the transformational side of it, I developed myself into quite a good meditation teacher because I saw it as so beneficial, and I devoted myself to learning all the skills to help other people to come into those ways of thinking and being. And so I had some leadership there, but it was mostly within the context of teaching classes, right? And I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't doing it in my own business, right? Someone else got the students in the seats, and all I had to do was help them while they already had decided to attend. It's different, but at least I had some skills. I learned that I can influence people in positive ways, and influence and leadership also are super connected. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but those are the elements that I combine with it. And what I can say is I had a lot of resistance to sales, and I had no real disposition as a leader, but I learned it. And when you realize that your own ability to influence others is the same as your ability to help them, and I really wanted to help people, then I got myself on board with, okay, it's good to be a leader. It's good to influence people. That was what did it for me.
Wow.
That's awesome. So that's really good to hear. So initially your ego or id or something got in the way, some form of that, and then you're like, hey, the service, you had that drive for service and that connection with people, and that pushed you through to fully embody that leadership quality, which has led to 10 to 30K months for lots of your clients, for you, and all of that amazing stuff, which is the real world aspect, or I guess the one aspect of leadership. The empowerment is where it comes from for both of you. I know you focus more on that, and then the results come after, whatever the results may be, and whatever your heart desires. And Selena, I feel like you have a different leadership style, but it's just as awesome. And it's, again, great to see the variation, but also that focus. I'd love to hear about your journey into or how you embody your leadership qualities, or what leadership means to you as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess John and I are so opposite in these ways, and I'm realizing how yin yang we really are. Like for me, I felt like I never had to think about leadership, own leadership, claim leadership, or do leadership. Because everywhere I went, everyone was looking at me to be the leader. So almost every single job I had, I was very quickly promoted to management. I barely had, even in my first job, like my second job, which I was like a server at like a buffet, like it was ridiculous, right? I like within months was like a manager at the restaurant. Like it just, there were so many instances that like I didn't try to be a leader, but everybody would always just like ask me to step into a leadership position. And so I don't think I ever had to develop leadership skills. I don't think this is a very relatable story, but I'm just saying, you know, like I never had to develop leadership skills. I never had to like go into leadership training. My own teachers would come to me and ask me questions. My own parents and their friends would bring me over to their house and ask questions. I was put at the lead of tables since the age of 12 to give advice to people triple my age. So, I mean, I never really had I never really had a life where I understood what it was like not to be a leader. I don't understand that. That to me, it doesn't even process. Like I don't know. I can't imagine a life where you had to learn leadership. It's not something I experienced in this
That's
lifetime.
amazing.
So,
I mean, I guess. Wow. No, that's
right? It's
so you
weird,
just
right?
you just exist, eh? So
I just
advice
exist, and
people,
everyone just
some of you
comes
were
to me.
born leaders, so just exist, go with the flow. I guess
Yeah,
part of it was
that's all it was.
initially maybe it was covered a bit by the situations you were in, or but then it just from the age of 12, it just let it flow and
Yeah, I mean, like my parents would ask me for help on things that I don't even like. If I were a parent, I would never ask my kid for that, you know. But my parents like would ask for help on things that I had to mature very quickly, I guess. And so like I had a very adult mind from a young age because I was put in a lot of like adult coaching positions, which probably isn't fair for a kid, but at the same time, like I think that's probably where it came from, is just like I was told that I was like the rock of the family, you know, because everything around was always very chaotic, but I did my best and I actually suppressed all my emotions and had to deal with them later. But everyone looked at me like I was the rock and that I could handle things and that I was really strong and courageous. And so like when things would go like astray, I would somehow just know how to put everybody on track because like I always just wanted peace in my environment. Like that was, I think that was a big thing. And I think because I knew how to create peace in my environment, people would always come to me to be like, I think you know how to create a better situation. And I always did somehow. So for a really long time, I didn't know how not to lead. And I think that's been more of my journey, learning how when to step back and not lead. And
wow,
so
that's
that's more my lesson in this life. Yeah, again, very, very unrelatable story.
no, no, that's awesome.
No,
But
That's great to hear. I guess so. So part of your journey was switching from you're still a leader throughout, just from suppressing your emotions so much
yeah,
and fully embodying them. So that was the change in maybe your
yeah.
leadership style, switching to a more authentic way. I mean, I guess it was always authentic, but it was more internally. You kind of resolved some issues the more you, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I used to lead with more the masculine that was a little more toxic. And now I'm becoming like mushier and I'm becoming more like soft. And that's helping me become more of like a feminine leader versus a masculine energy leader. So I'd say like that's the biggest transformation is the more I embrace my emotional awareness, um, the more that I feel like I can lead with softness rather than like intensity and rigidity. So
wow, no, that's awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, you both seem to flow, but yeah, there's definitely I've seen you both take steps back, and part of me is like, hey, she just interrupted you, or he just interrupted you. And I see both of you just get even more present and calm in those situations and just
Uh,
fully take in what the other person's thinks. I guess there's a part of me is like, no, no, he was talking, or she was not in this call, but in some of the
yeah.
other calls, and the other one earlier today, John, that I heard, I think Anastasia had some great points, but she just dived right in and and you're like, oh, that's amazing. And then you pause and you seem to be even more connected after after that. So that's another thing people could probably learn from you folks, and that I've been kind of tuning into and enjoying. So yeah, it's good to see
Yeah.
Cool.
leadership styles, and I guess business community. Where do you guys want to go? We've covered some of the inner work. Um, we could discuss what spirituality means to you. At some point, we'll do the master class. That's after we cover some of this. I just want to make sure, wanted to figure out if you had that prepared. We're putting that at the end. I'm not sure where we settled on that. It's not. Um, we John,
We didn't talk about it at all, but we can figure it out. Just tell
okay.
us which topics you want us to cover, and we'll come up with something on the spot right now
Okay,
for
so
that.
cool. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're expert teachers by now, so we can come up with anything.
give us a cue. Give us like a couple cues, like cover
Great.
this, and spaghetti sandwiches, and
Oh.
we'll weave it all together. No, just kidding. Come up with like a couple topics, and we'll create a custom blend for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh,
sure.
nicely said.
So business and community. So how the two are interlinked, how you've set up your
Mm.
business. I guess a bit of
Yeah.
nuts and bolts. How long you two have been working as coaches, and with this business, just the details of it, the kind of clients you've helped, and just talk about your business and how it's grown. I think last time it was John, so this time maybe we could do Selena just to switch it up.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, like my oh, do you want me to start or?
yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my entrepreneurial journey started when I was 16, and I became a math tutor. And immediately I was like drawn into like the Indigenous community because I just felt like this really strong heart pull to the Indigenous communities. And what I noticed is that a lot of them were just like having kids at a very young age and dropping out of high school. So like as a tutor, I kind of specialized in working with like Indigenous women that had gotten pregnant, had to drop out of school, and then they had to go back to school to study math to get their diploma. And so I would go to their house and I would tutor them. And a lot of them were pretty much a lot older than me. But it was like I created a business out of it from age 16, and I loved it. And so like it was word of mouth.
No, that's amazing and heartwarming. I
Yeah.
guess part of me is just learning when to jump into.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really cool story. I didn't know that, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful you shared that. But I'm like, I know you've done so many amazing things that part of me is like, let's get to this business because I guess
Yeah. Yeah.
and or the most recent version of this business.
Mhm.
'Cause I know the
Mhm.
two of you have been working
Yeah.
together for a relatively short time, but doing very similar things or
Yeah.
complementary things actually over the
Mhm.
last many years. So I guess the
Yeah.
closest cousin of this business and this business
Sure.
that you could speak to, and
Sure.
yeah, so
Yeah, I think it was just speaking to like how long I've been a teacher for. So, because like the teacher role has been very consistent, and that's
yeah,
kind of where the starting point was for me to start as a teacher. So since then, it grew into all kinds of different dynamic ways. Like my first business was actually a gym that I owned, and I left the corporate gym because I wanted to teach using my NLP abilities, and I had just gotten certified in a bunch of different classes, and I wanted to holistically train people, and I wasn't allowed to at the gym that I was working at. So I went and opened my own gym. And then that's when it transformed into a healing space. And then eventually I found psychosomatic therapy, started running group events, ran about 200 different workshops, retreats, facilitated masterminds, boot camps, spoke to all kinds of different functional medicine doctors, chiropractors, for example. I got involved in the artistic community a little bit, and I got involved in the acting community a little bit and did some teaching there. So I've been teaching and coaching for the past 10 years at least. Not, not including the preliminary times where I was just side tutoring and doing things on the side, right? So I've
started
been,
at 16. Sorry, I just
yeah,
more
right?
than that.
I'm 38 now,
Right,
so I
22
mean,
years then, 22. Yeah.
yeah, good
Cool.
math, good math. Yeah, you get the approval from my inner math tutor. Yeah.
I was a math major for a while, but only for a while. So
Awesome.
I love math too. I hear you.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, the last 10 years have been really like the biggest transformational times because I ran so many events within the same community and built my own community there. So much so that the people that started coming were like bringing their parents and bringing their kids and bringing their cousins and their sisters. And it just became like a buzz. And the workshops were just so transformational every week. And I just kept trying to switch things up and listen to my intuition. I did get a little burnt out, so I pulled back and did online coaching with a lot of the people that used to come to my workshops. For a while, that's when all my spiritual gifts even opened up even more. But I always missed teaching groups. So I had this idea that I wanted to do groups again, but I wanted to do it in a way that was sustainable and there was longevity to it. I wasn't the one doing all the marketing and all the talking to all the people. And because by the time I would get there, I'd just be pooped, right? Like John had the opportunity to go places and teach while everyone already signed up through the system. I had to create my own system, do my own marketing, find my own admin assistants, figure out the space, buy, rent all the different spaces, figure out the contracts for everything. Like it was a lot for one person. Totally burnt myself out and I loved it. It was like the happiest days of my life. Like literally the happiest days of my life to this day. Like I would wear a white dress to all my big events because to me that was my wedding day. Like that's how crazy it was. I was like, this is my wedding with God. Like I'm wearing a white dress. That was what I would do. So I mean, like it really did inspire me so much that I was like, I want to create this in a way where it's sustainable, it's growing, it's evolving into something. There's a mission. And I'll be honest, I interviewed all kinds of investors for this idea that I had, and they all said, this is way too original. We have no proof that this is going to grow. Like nobody's ever done what you're talking about. And then when John and I met, it was like, the more we talked, the more we were like, okay, our visions are actually very aligned. And we would just get deeper and we'd start poking in different like idea holes. And like, we'd realize that like our ideas were always the same. And like, because John does all the marketing and all the like sharing and communicating with people. And his whole thing was like, I don't like leading and delegating people within our space. He's like, I want to attract people. I'm like, oh, I love leading people within the space. Like, that's my thing, right? So then we realized, okay, yeah, we got to partner. Like, there's no way. Like, we can't not. This would be ridiculous if we didn't partner. So that's kind of the story. Yeah.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
it's working.
Thank you.
It's working really well. Like,
Yeah.
as you can see, like we have similarities and differences.
Yeah.
And I think our clients can draw a lot from both. If you're asking like, right now, why are we building a business and a community at the same time? What's the connection?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like, well, first of all, entrepreneurship is a spiritual growth journey because, obviously we need to learn external things, but the ones that hold us back are usually inner blockages, right? And so community is where belief is created, and community is where spiritual growth happens mostly, right? And so we create that. We have a community for our own clients, like the inner community. But in my mind, the thing I've been working on for years, and this is me putting it out in the public, I suppose, but we're creating a community of ideal clients for our clients, so that all of our clients can plug into a community that we have created for them, that we've curated for them, so that they don't have to go get lost in the Facebook algorithm jungle or the social media jungle. Most business coaches, even the spiritual business coaches, and we obviously have both, will help their clients and then send them out into social media land to kind of figure it out and mess with the algorithm, put in effort and do all that stuff. And that's been the standard approach. The other approach is ads, which are even harder and way more expensive to get those to work. Mm-hmm. So those are the two approaches these days, right? And then of course, MLM is a whole mess in and of itself. But what we're doing is we're going to do the normal coaching and help people in spiritual growth, release blockages, give them the strategy. And yes, they can go get warmed up on social media, but we are also creating and curating a beautiful community of ideal clients for them so that they can simply plug into that. We position them as experts inside this community. We give them posting access. We give them a stage, essentially, and we teach them how to speak on the stage. Mm-hmm. And we teach them how to follow up with people once the person likes them and wants to work with them. We teach them how to structure their packages and all that stuff. And so that is an additional benefit that we can offer that I don't believe anybody else offers. Mm. And I've seen a couple people try it, but I've never seen anyone have success with doing this. So because of our unique background in growing communities, being part of communities, leading communities, and doing the work that we're doing in business, we have the perfect blend and combo of skills and talents and vision to make this happen. And it is not easy compared to other things. That's why it's taken us all this time separately. But now that we're together, it's going really fast. And so I want to thank you for being part of it. You're helping us with this.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Wow.
part of, but that's the reason.
Here.
Just so you know, like that's the blend. That's the secret sauce blend that we're creating.
Yeah. Like if I knew through like last year when I was interviewing investors that I wasn't getting the investor because I could have this, I would have been like, that's cool. I don't care. Like you know, like this is a million times better. The heart connection, the synergy, just the high frequencies, the pouring in of love and intention. Like there's nothing more powerful than that for me. So this is really the juicy time where we can come together, you know?
No,
Yeah.
it's epic. It's exciting, and everyone I've spoken to around your team is as excited, and you guys radiate that. And yeah, it took me a while to figure out what services you offered and how it was done. So there were courses, there was a community, there was one-on-one intuitive coaching, there's digital marketing coaching, there's other marketing coaching, there's
Yeah.
how to talk, how to communicate in videos. So it is
Yeah.
a very layered program, and because I'm working with them, I get to see all parts of it, even though you know, so I get to see a little bit of an inside track, but it's growing every day, and that can be challenging, but it also keeps us on our feet. And part of me was thinking earlier, a new word, so just to poke, get some cacti, get some
Oh, the
Just
Let's
green.
poke
get
with
some
the
rougher. You
cacti.
guys ready for some rougher questions, or so
Yeah,
you guys
give us
think
the
you're
rough
Adam and
ones.
Eve, or what are we talking? What's wrong with the current Earth? Isn't Earth
You mean we're
always
not Adam
evolving?
and Eve?
You totally are Adam and Eve, fine. Wait, would that make me like, or everyone else on joining in?
Yeah,
But yeah. So
everybody.
talk about the new
Yeah.
Earth if you could, and
Okay.
did we
Yeah.
do Selena first last time? Yeah. So John
Yeah, we did.
this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new earth. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love what you said, Adam and Eve. It's like heaven on earth, in my opinion. The
Mm.
new earth is like heaven on earth. It's like grounding an experience of heaven, on earth, holding it, abiding within it, so that your own subjective experience is like you're in heaven,
Mhm.
essentially. But
Mhm.
to the people around you who aren't, they just see you as the normal you,
Mm.
right? And so it's a multidimensional experience. And
Mm.
by grounding it, though, we give other people access to it. So it helps we can bring other people into that experience, and that's where influence and skill comes in, because you can lead people into it. And obviously, everyone has to choose for themselves, but a lot of people are gonna get their eyes open at least a little bit through our presence. So we're
Mm.
creating that, we're integrating it in business, and we're attracting a community of other people who want to kind of bridge that gap in business too, so that we are kind of empowering the empowerers, if that makes sense. We want it to be a huge, epic, heaven on earth community.
Yeah. I mean, the people on your team, I'm very tempted to sign up to a lot of their services. I'm trying to figure out who's aligns the
Yeah.
most, but I like you guys, but a lot of the people who have signed up to your program, they're really impressive and deep
Yeah.
and connected people. So
Yeah.
that's been a journey. So I guess I'd love to hear your answer, and then I want you to tell me who doesn't make it to the new earth. What are we excluding, and how do we differentiate? Or maybe if you want to continue.
Do you
Yeah,
want to
I'll
continue?
say
Yeah, you
that real
continue.
quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody doesn't make it to the new earth
Okay.
as long as you're looking at a large enough time horizon. So you just kind of expand the time out to infinity. Everybody makes it. And we try to help people, because everything in between that could be quite bad. It could be a lot of suffering for people. So we want to help everyone who's available for it. Right. And, just back to your catalyst question, like if I were to give a very long answer, I would have included key mentors in my life. Right. So we can be, and our students and our community members can be the key mentors that help other people to awaken a little bit, to catalyze them, and to get them to say yes to something that they don't understand. And it shortens that time, but eventually everybody will make it into the new earth, in my opinion. That's what Buddhism teaches.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, what's the entry fee? I could go on New Earth, but I want to hear Selena's answer too, and then we can poke in with more cactus related. My
Frickle, frickle. Yeah, it's a great question. Great question. I love your questions, by the way. So for me, the new earth is really a place within ourselves that we get to. And it's a commitment to releasing distortions that the matrix has created just from our own culture upbringings and familial upbringings and societal teachings that have kind of taken us away from natural order and natural law, which have distracted us from feeling that things externally are more important than what is actually truth and aligned with love and light, if you want to just make it super simple and new agey. But there's so much depth and texture to love and light that I feel gets completely missed in a lot of the spiritual communities. And that's why the way we're doing it, we really want to actually practicalize what is, what is the language of light? What is the language of love? And how does it transfer into this notion of like entrepreneurship and light workers executing their missions on the planet? Like, what does that actually look like in a practical form? It's really bridging the gap for me between, the old earth and the new earth, where a lot of the things that we were taught to say worship or externalize or idolize or count as being successful or important, which are actually really not that important in the grand scheme of things when we actually prioritize our soul. When we prioritize our soul and we prioritize our soul path, we can actually override a lot of these like detours that people go on where they don't necessarily fulfill like all of themselves. They're only looking for it's almost like a temptation thing or an ego-based choice that leads people astray from their souls. So for me, the new earth is like bringing people towards themselves ultimately, and using my intuition to do that. It's not one path for all. It's basically, there is one choice for all, which is the choice of the soul path. I think that's the bigger picture. But I think each soul path is going to look different from person to person based on their karma, based on their past lives, based on their soul lessons, based on what they came here to learn, based on, where they're at and how developed they are in particular characteristics, right? So to me, it's this really beautiful space that we cultivate and refine from within ourselves and then bring it out into the world in a way that matches the frequency of oneness, universal law, like I said before, and it embodies one's fullness rather than parts of oneself. It doesn't require one labeling themselves in a way that is limiting or restrictive. It allows one to feel free and expansive in the world as they are. So that's just my 2 cents.
Oh, that's awesome, both of you. Thank you. Yeah, New Earth sounds pretty awesome, and yeah, I do believe as well that we're all gonna get there, and it's great to see and connect with more people who are there, committed to getting there, and seeing that it's not really there that we're getting, it's within. So that's a great great.
One more thing that I could add, you asked like, what is the entry fee? And I just love it. Selena kind of said it. The old earth is the entry fee. You have to be willing to give up the old earth in order to get to new earth. And that's a decision that we make a little bit day at a time.
Yeah.
Like today, can you give up the old earth version of whatever? And that's how you'll access the new earth version of whatever.
Yeah.
And every day we do it to our own capacity until finally we're like mostly abiding in the new earth, until finally we're like completely abiding in the new earth.
Right.
Who else has made it to the new earth? I guess that taps into mentors and people who you see or recognize as avatars, or people who have embodied that new earth quality set at some point. And I guess those mentors would be super super interesting, I guess. So your mission statement jump into the other part, your mission statement or values for the all one mentorship and mastermind program. So that's the nuts and bolts of the program that's offered. I mean, it encompasses so much more, but in terms of what people could sign up to, apart from potentially joining communities you're a part of, what would the mission statement or values of that be? And is it, so it's primarily for business owners and spiritual entrepreneurs? Do you have a specific mission statement? I'm sure it's on your website, but just wondering if you could quickly speak.
Well, I'll just add that
I think it was Selena's turn, but it's okay.
Oh no,
it's okay,
no.
Go ahead.
I'm just sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna say the mission statement. I'm gonna say something else.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Basically, like I feel like we already mentioned some of like our mission, and like the practical way that we're gonna get them there is through various coaching that we do every week: inner work coaching, leadership coaching, masterminding, mentorship, and business coaching every single week. Plus, we build them a couple funnels. A funnel is a step-by-step website that helps a person to kind of get more leads, make more sales. So we build them a few strategic funnels that have already worked for us and our other clients. And we actually plug them into communities where people already want the kind of thing that they do, and teach them how to magnetize their audience into their funnels, essentially, into their workshops, into their calendars, into their community. And so the combination of the three is essentially what we do, and that's how we get them there, basically.
Perfect, thank you. And I like the name AOM and All One Mentorship and Mastermind. That's not to Om or Aum, I imagine, or that's how it's pronounced. So
it wasn't even designed like that. It was created because we're activating light leaders into an opulent new earth.
So that's the ALL is activating light leaders, and then the ONE is into the opulent new earth. So that's how it became all one.
That's how it happened, was those two combined.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Catching up.
Yeah.
I think this was in my first chat, but hey, learn something new and remember something old every day. Okay.
So good. We should probably talk about that more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, activating light leaders, like one thing that John and I realized that we have in common, because everyone has different gifts, right? Like some people are harmonizers, some people are catalysts for others, some people are like, they just bring in like endings for people, and other people just bring in like connections for people. Some people bring in creativity and everyone has like a different role in people's lives. So like John and I were talking and we're like, well, what is it that we do? Like we didn't really, we literally just met like 4 or 5 months ago. So like, I don't even know how long it's been really, maybe, yeah, something about like that. About that. So like when we met, we had to kind of get to know each other. And what we both really realized we resonate with in terms of like our soul capacity and the way that we influence and impact others is this word activating. So we're like, are you an activator? Yeah. Are you an activator? Yeah. Okay. So what are we activating in people here? Like, what is it that we want to create for people? And that was when like the light leadership thing came in, because it was like, to be a light leader means that you're actually led by the divine. And I think that, in both of our lives, we've seen a lot of leaders not lead by the divine, let's just say, right? They're leading from other places within themselves that are not coming from like a really clean place. And so like we both had the agreement that in order to be part of this new earth as a leader, we don't think leaders are just going to go away. Like everyone's going to still need leaders in the new earth, we believe. It's just that the leaders need to be led from a higher frequency and from divinity. So we both sort of had a little bit of like energy that was already embodying that and emulating that. And so we decided to like bring our hearts and our heads together and create the encodement process of that for people.
And it is an ongoing journey, I imagine, right? So we have like, I guess the part of me that was maybe slightly strict is like, we have some light, it's like, how do we define it? It's a tricky road. You trust your intuition and your heart, but part of me was like, if they're not in the leading from divinity, but we're all part of divinity. So there's that conflict. Yeah. So it's how much of it we're embodying. So it's that is how I'd view it. But I was wondering how much of that was just me being triggered by it, and how much you could speak to, I guess, the variance or the colors of divinity that we do embody or not. And I guess how you figure that out. I guess you're just more connected or psychic over the years, and that's how you learn to trust yourself and figure out how much in tune people are with themselves. Higher truth.
I don't think psychicness is a reflection of divinity personally.
Fair,
I don't relate that to. I think there's divine psychics and non-divine psychics.
Connected with
for me,
it should be a better phrase, but no, I sit corrected.
it's for me, it's more about like tuning into the truth is what it is. And we all have our filters. We're not all gonna be able to tune into a truth that is all going to show the same language, because we are all a different color of divinity. So the way that each of us reflects our divinity is going to look slightly different from person to person. But the way that I see this, it's such a good question, because this is something that I ponder almost every single day. And the thing is that when you look at a human being, right, there's so many components to us. We have our careers, we have our relationships, we have our health, we have our practices, we have all these different elements to our lives, the way we create in our environments, the way we speak, how we interact, what we put out into the world. Those are all little fractals of who we are and what we represent. To be aligned with divinity, it doesn't mean like in the process of coming into our new earth selves, we're not going to get it one and done. We're going to find there's certain aspects of ourselves that are much more connected to divinity, and there are other aspects of self that are less connected to divinity, you know? And I mean, John and I even personally have had to go through that process, be like, wow, you're so enlightened in this way, but like, you really need work in this, you know, we've had to, it's been a humbling experience to be like, wow, there's aspects of ourselves that are super divine and connected. And then we have other aspects of our lives that we're still developing and we're still bringing more divinity into. The reason we created this business is because we have so much experience and our hearts are so aligned with the mission, with what we're doing, that this is where we both shine really, really bright. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question.
I'd love to
Yeah,
take a
I mean, I
crack
just
at that.
enjoyed the ride either way, but I did. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Sometimes I think we have sometimes questions come from a skeptical viewpoint or come from a place of trying to kind of tear down something beautiful, right? And so we just gotta ask that. But I feel that kind of what one of the themes Selena is on is like it's not an absolute thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. The question has a little bit of an absolutist mentality to it, I think.
Yeah.
But like in my mind, the practical application is like everybody's got some light and everybody accesses it occasionally. And so all we got to do is help people to get more and more in touch with that light and to, then we got something to work with, right? And once we do that, then it's like, okay, we want to support and encourage somebody who's connected in that small way, and to just do it more often, do it more all encompassing, to widen their channel, and eventually to do that so much they actually become useful to others. They actually become able to help others. And we like to get people at that point where they're already embodied enough that they don't have any problem helping others, that they have capacity to help others. And that requires someone to have been on the path long enough, like on their own path. And so yeah, we are not trying to necessarily at this point work with people who are like deeply suffering with maybe depression, anxiety, or just like the things that weigh down the average person. Like, yes, everybody's got light, everyone accesses it sometimes, but that's not our role right now. We're helping the people who are helping the people, who are helping the people, or at least like there's a couple layers in between, right? And so, and that's by design. We want to have the most. That's part of leadership is leverage, right? We want to have the most leverage. With one Zoom call, we can change the world if it's leaders who are on the call who are all trying to help others.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's how we've designed it, and that's what fulfills us. Even back when I was a meditation teacher, it was just part of my mission, because one time one of my students looked around the class. He was like, all of us, there was a group of regulars. And he's like, all of the regulars have a service-based job. Everyone in there had a job or mission or career where they're helping others. And that was because that's who I was. And I just attracted the people who are like that. And even when I was a meditation teacher, later when I had my own center, I was in my mind, I was thinking, man, there's all these people here who I'm not helping. And my role didn't allow me to help certain other people. And so that was one of the reasons I had to step out and do something different, is because I knew in my mind I needed to help more leaders. And so anyway, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that definitely clarified it, helped me feel less triggered. Both of you though answered it. You're right. So you focused on people who've already at a certain stage in their journey to have the most impact, and that's because you've helped people on various other stages of your journey when you were at various other stages, but you've got to a place where you can help people who can, and that's something that's really awesome to be a part of. So thank you.
Yeah, and just like a little principle I would highlight is like at every stage of the journey, we all got to ask the question, like, how can I do more with what I've got? Like, how can I work with what I've got? And not what some people do is like a wishful thinking thing where they separate themselves from the thing that they want. And so if divinity and the new earth and all that stuff feels like it's far away, then we're not going to get there by thinking about it that way. We got to realize we're already in touch with it to some degree now. And we just got to work with that part of ourselves. And that's what we do with everyone that we meet. And that's our job. Yeah, that's our mission.
That's deep. That definitely resonates. It reminds me of like a gratitude practice. So sometimes no matter what you have, the starting space. So instead of, oh, I want XYZ, it's like, oh, I got XYZ. And then it helps you get like the next 3 things that you want. And I think that's huge. And that could work on all stages. But no, thank you. That was really awesome for both of you. You guys are, getting to know you more and learning more about the business too. What else can we talk about? Should we do some other tough questions? Yeah, some problems with the way like new age spirituality or being ungrounded and how you kind of deal with that. I forget who was first. Was it either one?
I think I was first last time.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of extra talking.
Oh,
If you want
okay.
to go.
Yeah. So that's why we switched back to good point. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so for me personally, I was probably a new ager at some point in my life. So I wouldn't like classify myself like that with where I am today. I think it was a little bit of like a process or a phase I went through. And what happened in that space was I realized, for me at least, the experience that I witnessed upon others and in myself was like a need to escape. So it was basically like, I'm rejecting this, and therefore I'm going to only accept this rather than just be this. And so like, it really took me into places where, I think there was moments where I was very suicidal, for example, in my life. And I just really wanted to find a way out, and like, doing things like ecstatic dance and, connecting to people who were into like psychedelics and all that kind of stuff. Like, I just felt like it was becoming an escape, a means to escape. And even meditation, I used it to escape at one point. Like, I became obsessed with meditation, and I didn't want to do anything but meditate, and it became an obsession. So, I think for a lot of new agers, I think part of the problem is like, we actually need to embody our human existence. And when we do a lot of talking, like when we speak, our cells listen. Like, that's the thing. It's like our cells are constantly receiving the frequency that's coming out of our mouth. So if we're constantly talking about, oh, I'm from this planet and I'm from that planet, and oh, I'm a star seed, oh, I'm a rainbow child, oh, I'm a crystal child, oh, I'm an indigo. Like, what are we actually doing when the more we're repeating this is we're saying, I'm not like everybody else, and I'm really different, and therefore I don't belong, and therefore I need to find a place called home. And most people try to find home in all kinds of places that are not within themselves in that community. And for me, my journey was to like actually find home within myself. And I had to completely leave the community and leave leave all the people from my workshops. And I had to literally go across the country and go back to my home and stay in my family's house for a year after being gone 17 years, and really take a hard look at my trauma and process all the things that I had suppressed to get to a place where it was like, oh, I don't have anything to escape from anymore. There's no need. I found everything I need is in here. So I believe that's a process. And I think that's why new agers go through this, because I think on some level, we just were brought up in a society that didn't necessarily mirror back what we needed. And as a result, we're realizing that doesn't mean we're outsiders. It just means that we're change makers. There's a difference.
Wow. That was awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, I love ecstatic dance and all those things.
Same. Oh, I love all those things.
Totally. But
but it's from
I hear what you're saying. I've switched like from ecstatic dance to more somatic kind of movements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then being more present or embodied is something I've learned in the past year with our through Maya and like the partner. And and it's hard because it's like it's easy not to deal with the shadow, and it's easy to feel like you're love and light all the time, and you just like, oh, I'm connected, and you can be connected, but that groundedness is a huge part of being fully connected and fully present, and I sense that more in you or more today in myself than I did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and that's one of the things that drew me to you folks, that you do seem embodied and grounded, and you feel it. It's palpable, it's tangible. So thank you. But no, thanks for speaking of that. That was really cool.
Great question. Do you want to answer?
Sure. Yeah. And so just like normal, we have opposite starting places, right? So I never really was new age. right? And I kind of got into Buddhism from the lens of psychology, and I had some kind of quantum physics interests and stuff, but I got into it because it was an extension of psychology and just trying to be of more of service. I wanted to help my clients more, and I just knew that the tools I had access to were limited, and I just needed to be happier myself. And my Buddhist tradition was very much anti-New Age, basically. We sort of branded ourselves particularly so that no one would confuse us with New Age. It was a conscious branding. And so I learned how to speak in ways that were just anti-New Age, that you just couldn't confuse it, right? And even though we were connected and tapped into, the deepest type of stuff, right? And so that's really where I came from. And then when I left and decided to kind of do things on my own, that's when I got confronted with all the New Age manifestation, all these things, right? And one key thing that I can speak to that makes Selena and I extremely different from most other people and mentors and stuff is that we do not feed the spiritual ego.
Yeah.
In fact, we will slash the spiritual ego and starve it and suffocate it and completely tie it up in a bag and throw it down in the river with a chain tied on.
We literally joke about how savage we are when it comes to this.
It's savage, but that's like, if I were to say what is New Age? Like, part of it is escaping, and part of it is using spirituality to decorate your ego. It's just trying to make your ego persona a little bit nicer. And so you wear these ornaments of New Agey terminology and ideologies in order to be more attractive to other people so that you can get things in the world. Yeah. And so, that is a friend of mine who I lived at the temple with reminded me of a quote. I used to say these very wise things when I was a monk, and this guy remembers someone told me later. He's like, one thing you said was, there's nothing spiritual about the spiritual persona, right? Because it's not a spiritual thing. It's an ego thing, right? And so this is a firm stance that we have. So the no escape, right, is one. Being fully present and not hiding and addressing everything, obviously, is part of that. And then the not protecting or sort of decorating the spiritual ego. And those are two huge pitfalls that people wind up into. And I think a third thing that I'd mention is a lot of New Agey type paths don't have any real connection to the end result that they're trying to get to. They're just like wild goose chases that feel a little bit fun, and there's no real connection with the result that they're trying to get to, right? They're not a path that's being kind of given to them from a divine source. And so we start at the end, and we give people the breadcrumbs that lead them to the end result that they want, which is union with divinity. We're not concerned with taking the wild detour paths that lead them to getting these, whatever personas that they're trying to get to. We don't do that. And so those are three differences that we have that New Agers fall into. It's the traps that good people fall into sometimes because they don't have access to better teachings. But we stand firmly against those things, and this is what we do.
Sorry, so the three were again, just to recap real quick, or just
so the one is escapism versus being present and addressing what's coming up. Spiritual persona versus releasing the all ego, right? And then the third would be connection to the end result versus just aimless journeying, aimless whatever. We don't do that. We're always, everything we do is completely anchored in the leading people.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's a good, I guess part of the follow-up question is the end result being a tangible external result, or connection, or connection with divinity, right? So
connection with divinity.
That's the thing right there. That's what I was actually going to expand on. The connection with the divinity. Yeah, the connection with divinity is, I think, what's lacking in a lot of processes. Like when we're talking about manifestation, are we manifesting from our ego or are we manifesting from our divinity, right? If we're doing spells to like call back an ex, is that coming from divinity or is that coming from ego? You know, are we doing moon rituals to worship the moon, or are we worshiping divine in accordance with the moon? You know, like the energy behind what you're doing is going to look very different when you are worshiping or being in alignment, wanting to be in alignment with divinity versus an ET or an archangel or a moon or a sun or Mother Earth or whatever it is, right? We want to look at divinity as the number one source that we all drink from. That's what's different with John and I compared to everyone else, is that we bring everything from a place of divinity versus aspects of divinity. And I think that was the premise in which we decided to work together. It was fundamental for both of us to come with that energy.
Perfect. No, that's sounds new agey to me now. I'm just that's amazing. I like poking. It was time for that, but no, that's perfect. That's awesome. Thanks for speaking to that, and it kind of leads to my next couple of questions. I don't know how we're doing for time. I know I can talk forever, and I want to hear you guys talk forever, indefinitely. But I have a few more questions. But yeah, what do you think, John? Boss mode.
Yeah, we may want to do the masterclass in a separate filming.
Yeah, totally.
Depending on time. But yeah, please, this is fun. Please keep asking questions. This is very good.
So this leads into two other questions. So one is, how do you personally, each of you, tap into divinity? What practices, what means? So getting into a heart space, being grounded, connected divinity, what do you do personally? What practices do you have now and later? And then we'll dive into, we don't worship moons, but we're called moon. Where does that name come from? Is it real? I'm curious.
Yeah, good question.
But yeah, I mean, first maybe the practices or the moon, whichever you resonate.
Should I go first?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go first on the practice one. So my practice in tapping into divinity is one of my main practice is I try to access really any positive state of mind, such as peace, for example, or presence, and I identify this as being my true nature. Like if I were to let go of all other things, my mind would automatically return to peace or presence, right? And so it's actually my default state. So I recognize that, which helps me to relax into it rather than fight to hold it. And then I recognize that actually the divine consciousness and mind is everywhere. Divine energy is everywhere. Divinity is everywhere. It's pervading everything, including my body and my mind right now. And so it is pervading my peace. In fact, I believe that anytime that we experience a positive emotion, it is simply us tapping into divine consciousness. That's really what it is. And so I just recognize that I'm already connected to divinity through my own entry point, which is my little bit of whatever quality it is, peace or presence. And so I recognize I'm already connected. And then because I have faith, I have so much faith in divinity that now it starts to flow in through my connection point. It's like taking a piece of metal and connecting it from one circuit to another. And now the energy from the one can come into the other. That the recognition that I'm already connected is that metal that allows divinity to flow into me. And now I can channel it. And now my job is to just maintain my peace and presence, my recognition that I'm connected to divinity, my faith in divinity, and then just like whatever intention I have for speaking or doing anything, I can take divinity with me. I allow divinity to flow from me. That's my way of doing it.
Cool.
I know that's quite a precise answer.
No, you're
that's what I do.
Radiated. I mean, yeah, I can. So and I like the background, the little bit of like engineering bit. It's like you tap into connection.
But it's scientific, though. It is a scientific process. Like it actually functions like real science. It's just invisible science, right?
I think Buddha was a scientist, and he was an experiment, and a lot of people have that viewpoint, or a lot of it's how we connect to ourselves. And so for you, you connect to peace or presence, and from there you use your faith and your previous experience of connecting to it to get back into the flow. And that's
There's a recognition that I'm already connected and that my peace is actually just divine peace. Like most people label this is my peace, this is my presence. But what if we labeled this is divine peace, this is divine presence that I'm just tapping into. So now the recognition and belief is like I'm already connected and tapped in, which and since we are, that belief opens that door to receive more of it, right? Beliefs release potential that's already there. In my opinion, beliefs can't create something that there isn't the potential for. It only can create things that there is the potential for. And so, since it's true that you're already connected to divinity, that belief unleashes it and can channel it for you, if that makes sense. So it's that recognition and belief. And it's anchored though. One of our things is anchoring, right? And so it's anchored in my own. A person needs to have their own personal practice enough to develop at least some peace, some presence, and ability to stabilize it, an ability to, through meditation and mindfulness, to maintain it, because that's your access point, right? And then through the recognition, you can flow divinity into it. It's a precise way, and it took me a while to get this, but I eventually learned it, and now that's how I channel. That's what I do particularly.
That was awesome. No, I really enjoyed that, and the addition at the end was really cool. That belief isn't there. I mean, it ties into what already exists. And it's not like owning that. I mean, you are owning it, but you're not individualizing the piece. It's divine peace. That both those things really resonated.
Yeah, cool. You're welcome.
Well, yeah, for me, it's a lot, I guess, a little bit more simple, but it's because I believe in the power of repetition. So for me, like repetition, when you start repeating something, it takes time for your body to adjust to what you're repeating. But once you have repeated something over 1 million times, the repetition of one single repetition can transform the energy a lot quicker. So for me, my personal repetition is something that I received from the channeler Matt Kahn, which is just an affirmation. I am the light I am. So if I ever feel like I'm disconnected, I literally just write it down 10 times. I am the light I am. I journal almost every day, at least a little bit. And I breathe that through my body. And I just remember, okay, well, like, I am the light I am. If there's any part of me that is resisting it, I'll usually just tune in, like, why am I resisting the light right now? What part of my inner light do I not want to see or pay attention to or want others to see or know about? Or what part of me am I suppressing? Or what story do I have around not being the light right now? And I'll work through that just through breath work and consciousness, and I'll find a place to meet the light within again. It's really simple for me.
Cool. Yeah, I came across Matt Kahn just last year, and I'm
Oh,
definitely
really?
a fan. It's just been
Yeah.
but he's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Credit the partner for that work too. So yeah. But yeah, Matt, I'm the light I am. I'm gonna roll with both of these.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite affirmation of all time. I am the light I am.
I'm gonna add that to my list, or put that top of my list. I've been getting back in affirmations, and I feel like some of them are mantras. It's that bridge. You need that bridge sometimes, a lot of times, to connect to divinity. So you both have spoken of different ways to sort of get to that bridge, and however small the bridge is, the more you practice, the less you need the bridge, and like the crutches we were talking about the other day. So yeah, that's cool. Now it's time for why are we named Moon? And he said we don't.
Selena Ella Moon.
We just is that your real name? I'm not.
Selena.
No.
Yeah. Let me share.
Yeah, sure.
So,
how did you get that name, or how did it come about?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I grew up in a Muslim community. I think I shared earlier that I was part of a religious community growing up. And the name that I was given meant luminous in Arabic. And so like luminous meant to me being the light in the dark. Right. And so the name itself, I really resonated with, but the way that I felt like it was maybe misused started to make me feel disassociated from the truth of what the name was supposed to be and how it was given to me from birth. And so what happened was, because I was getting triggered by it myself, obviously because of what was going on inside me, my external world started mirroring that back to me. And when I started becoming very vocal about my spiritual connections and how I wanted to share my own version and practices publicly, I started getting attacked by Muslims because they could see my name and they were like, you're a traitor, you're not using, you know, for example, you're not saying Allah, like things like that. I would get death threats actually.
Wow.
Using my name. Like I started getting death threats through Facebook. That's how it started. But of course, it was just a mirror of my own, like, I don't resonate with this Muslim connection anyways. I think it was actually just mirroring that back to me. And so I knew that I started feeling like unsafe utilizing the name, because it just didn't feel, even though the meaning of it connected with me, it just didn't feel like it was truly me anymore. It felt like I was being misunderstood or not seen clearly. So I just set the intention that I wanted a spirit name. And I actually went to go visit a chief of an indigenous tribe.
Wow.
And everyone came to get their spirit name. And I went and I sat before the chief and I asked the chief, "Okay, can I please receive my spirit name?" And he gave everyone their spirit name, and he laughed in my face. And he said, "You shouldn't be here. You already know how to get your spirit name. Like, go connect. What are you doing?" Right? It's like he could just see through me that I was being like trying to be a student when really I could have just like owned my mastery. So I was like,
Wow.
this is so frustrating. How am I supposed to choose my own name? This is crazy. So I was like, I'm going to book a trip to Cuba and I'm going to like go all out with this. Like, this is no joke to me. I have to take this seriously. Right. So I booked this trip to Cayo Coco, and I get there and my intention is to do a silent retreat by myself. Like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to deal with anybody. I just want to be there by myself. And all I want to do is meditate and get this name. Right. So I go to Cayo Coco, and the first thing they do at the lobby is they give me like this grand honeymoon suite to myself in this huge cabin by the water, like just as a gift, like, here, we're upgrading you. And I was like, wow, this is my spiritual sacred retreat by myself for a week. So I went there and I did that. And I sat, there was like literally this beautiful chair that was sitting by the beach, and I would go sit by the water and I would just meditate every night. And then there was a full moon. It was in May. There was a full moon one night, and I finally got the download. And it wasn't Selena Ella Moon at the time. It was just Selena Moon. And I didn't even know Selena meant moon. Like, that was the crazy part, is like, I didn't even know that. I didn't have Wi-Fi. So like, there was no way for me to look this up and be like, oh, this is this. But the irony is that when I was a kid, every time I was being bullied, the only thing that would ever make me feel better is I'd run into my room, lock the door, and I'd go outside and I'd look at the moon. Every day. Every time I was bullied, I would go to the moon and I'd look at the moon, and I'd feel somehow better when I would stare at the moon. So I was like, it was kind of like the divine saying to me, like, we've been speaking to you through this realm. Wow. And we've been with you this whole time, and you're not alone. And we want to remind you that you are the light in the dark. So even though I'm not using the luminous word anymore, I'm still the moon, because it's the same thing. It's the light in the dark. And also the divine was my light in the dark when I was suffering in the household. So basically, like, for me personally, it holds a very different meaning than what a new ager would look at, for example. And you know, and that's fine. I no judgment. But for me personally, it was a very personal thing, very connected to my birth name still. Ella came in after 5 years. I just kept praying. I'm like, I know it's not done yet. They just kept saying, it's not done. It's not done. Like, your name's not finished. And then I had to step into my feminine energy. And I was waiting for, I guess I didn't know that, but finally when I hit this space in my life where I'd finally like transition from having like all guy friends to like all girlfriends, it finally was like, oh, okay, I'm like in my feminine energy now a lot more. And then Ella came through. And when Ella came through, it was like super, like goosebumps head to toe. Like, and then that's when it was like complete, like, hey, it's Selena Ella Moon. So that's my story.
That's awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. That's so cool.
You're
I didn't
welcome.
know Selena was moon. And also, I'm curious, you only got bullied every like fortnight or when the moon was out? Because you said you kept going to the moon when you were
I
bullied.
did.
But
Yeah.
then is the moon always out? And sorry.
Yeah. I could see the moon from my window, except for
Wow.
when it was like a new moon and there's no moon, right? But
Right.
there's always a sliver or something, a
Yeah.
waning or waxing or a gibbous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, I was always looking at the moon, whether it was full or not.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And Ella it represents the divine feminine, or just
Yeah,
that's what it signifies?
it is. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Like goddess, is
yeah.
it God?
Well,
Divine
if
feminine.
divine feminine, but really, I think everything is feminine. Like that's a whole other topic. But I think everything has feminine and masculine in it, and it's just our perception.
Sure.
That's my personal belief. So
Yeah,
I don't subscribe to the this is all masculine and this is all feminine thing anymore. It's a little too dualistic for me. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
awesome.
So,
And you
yeah,
were just John Patrick Mueller.
Well, when I was a
actually.
monk, I got a new
Cool.
name when I was a monk. I had an ordained name. And so the name was Kelsang Chopag. I'm not allowed to use that name anymore publicly.
Scratch, delete from record. No, I'm saying-
No, I
that's
mean,
cool. That's a neat name.
but that was my name, Kelsang Kelsang means fortunate one, and it also means like a bodhisattva, or somebody who's like on the path, on the verge of becoming enlightened. They're a servant of the world, with compassion. And then Chopag was like my personal name. Kelsang was like the family name, right? We're all Kelsang, and my name is Chopag, and that meant Dharma increaser. Dharma is like the experience of Buddha's teachings, and it was like my job to increase my own and other people's experience of the teachings, and
Which you did.
which I've done, and it became, at first when I got the name, I didn't really like it, to be honest. I didn't resonate with it. I really wanted a Sanskrit name, and they gave me a Tibetan one, which, you know, they gave out a couple Sanskrit names, and but actually it became a really good name, and it helped me, and it became a very appropriate name. And usually the names are something that you kind of grow into. It either signifies like a purpose, a function that you have, or just something that you need to work on, basically. And so yeah, that was my name for a few years, and you know, I wore the robes of a monk, and I had a shaved head. And earlier you said that that I am a monk. I'm not a monk anymore. Monks are celibate, and they wear robes and they look like monks, and I don't anymore. But I was, and it was an extremely important path for me during that time. And yeah, I used to always kept thinking that I would return to it. I don't know if I will. I feel like, yeah, I feel like I've moved on a bit from that particular. It's just an expression. Being a monk is an external expression of something that all Buddhists are trying to do. It's not hierarchical. It's not being special. It's not being unique. There's nothing unique about it. It's just a symbol. You're just sort of becoming an external symbol of a state of mind that all Buddhists in particular are trying to practice, but really any spiritual person is trying to do all the same things. It's just a monk looks a certain way to symbolize that path, which is helpful. It's helpful to have people who wear it like that, so it helps people to see it. Um, and I just found that in this modern world, I just wanted a different path, kind of. And I just really wanted to start dating, and I really wanted a business. I wanted to start a business. I wanted to reach more people, and I've done that. I've done what I wanted to do, and I found like my new path. I love what I'm doing. I love it more than what I used to do, you know, a lot more actually. And
Thank goodness.
yeah, I love it a lot more, you know. And but I needed to go through that. I needed it. It was like I was getting trained. I was on a leash, right? I was on a leash for 5 years getting trained, and now I'm off the leash, and now I'm more beneficial than I was before, and I'm also very disciplined, you know, which I needed. I needed that. A lot of people don't need it, but I did. I needed that, so it's been helpful for me.
Oh, that's awesome. You totally stole my next one of my questions, but
Oh, good.
it's no, it's good because I totally wanted to ask how you made the switch over, but that's
Mm.
awesome. Just your intuitive sense kicking in, and it was cool to learn that you had a name that actually resonated, and
Yeah.
yeah, Selena, I could totally see the moon and the reflection that is even in your hair. You got the strands of white.
Yeah,
You said you used to wear the white dresses for your workshop.
yeah, I
Black.
did.
It's you got the reflecting the light. Both you. I don't know if you got light in front of you, but you generally always do
Thank
reflect the
you.
light. What else can we ask that's tough? I feel we've covered a lot and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to wanted to cover. I do want to do random rapid fire questions about
Love it.
weird
Let's
stuff.
do it.
About weird
Yeah.
stuff. Part of me wants to
Okay.
let loose and get the
Let it
head out.
loose.
So it's gonna be a mess.
Let your
Oh
hair
no,
Okay.
it's done.
Rapid fire.
Okay.
We've got a
Yeah.
cactus.
I like how you have a hairstyle for your rapid fire question section.
You should have some hardcore music.
I know. I feel like I should have put my hair back initially first so I can meet you in this jungle.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so just instantly, I'll mention a word, and you tell me your 1 to 5 words that come to mind as soon as you
Okay.
can. So it's like a free flow consciousness. Okay,
Sure.
So and we'll do this we'll try and time it. I think I've seen this on the show. We'll do it for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Once I run out of questions, or let's see how we'll flow with it. All right, so and then we'll do alternate. So first we'll start with Selena, then John, and then John's, whatever.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Magic.
Ooh. I am the light I am.
I am the light I am. Thank you. John, magic.
Science that you can't see.
Science that you can't see. Nice. Aliens. John.
UFOs, we're all becoming one of them.
Selena.
Ancestors in ships.
God. Selena.
The one I love most.
John, thank you.
Who we're all becoming.
Angels. John.
They're here with us every day.
Selena.
Happiness and a light being.
Love it. Channeling. Selena.
A way of being.
My highest expression.
Sex. John.
The thing I really wanted, that I thought I really wanted, that wasn't quite as good as what I thought it was going to be when I didn't have it. But now I've learned to keep a balanced mind while I'm doing it.
Oh. An opportunity for divine union.
Yeah.
Psychology.
Who's first?
John. No, Selena.
Psychology?
Psychology and inner work.
Oh, my highest excitement.
John.
It's the mind. Study science of the mind.
Yeah.
Most important topic.
Thanks. Shamans. John.
Unusually dark, too powerful for their own good. You gotta be careful if you meet someone who says they're a shaman.
Selena.
Potent and ritualistic.
True.
State of the world today, Selena. Good and bad.
Good and bad state of the world. Transition from old earth to new earth.
Generally degenerate. Accelerating in both directions. Accelerating how bad it's getting and accelerating how good it's getting for some people.
Okay. Yoga, John.
I love it. Super helpful physical exercise. Very good.
Versus Tai Chi, still John.
Sure. I like yoga personally more. I'm sure Tai Chi is great too, but it's just not as accessible.
Selena, Tai Chi versus
Divine. Yeah, I look at yoga very differently. Yoga to me is divine stillness, and Tai Chi is like chi in motion.
Herbs and diet, Selena.
Healing and wellness.
John.
Yeah, super helpful. Super helpful. Medicinal, I think it's a good word. Medicinal.
Sean, ecstatic dance. Dance.
I'm sure it's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's really nice for some people who love that stuff.
Yeah. For me, it's still my happy place. Like I just do it in my body now rather than leave my body.
What else? PCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and ancient modalities like it, ancient healing. Selena.
True wisdom.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Very helpful medical practices.
John, what annoys you most about Selena?
What?
What annoys you most
I'm sure a lot.
and about Selena?
What annoys me about her?
If anything
Um,
does, I don't
I
know.
haven't been able to get her to break her diet, to eat certain things yet that I wanted her to eat.
Yeah.
That's it.
He
No,
wants me to eat pizza and
nothing,
ice cream.
nothing annoys me about her, but there's been moments where I wanted her to try some food and she wouldn't try it, and that's okay.
And then,
It's
Selena,
okay
what
now.
annoys you about what's that?
It's okay now.
Oh,
There are a couple yeah, nothing annoys me about her.
What annoys me about John is that he tries to get me to eat things I don't like.
that's a big. That's piggyback.
I wish he would just be cool with whatever I wanted to eat, but he's
Which I am now.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, pizza and ice cream deserve a taste. There's so many different kinds. But sorry, no, this is almost.
Oh, I've had them all too. Like it's not like I've never been in that world. I'm just
That's
not
fair
in
to
that space
say.
right now. Yeah.
My attachment to pizza. And I got distracted. Almost done. But what annoys? What have been your triggers or annoyances recently that you can share or want to share? Anything that has annoyed you, not just John, but just in life.
For me, it's been like patience, I think. Like for me, like my journey has been like triggered by not being able to go as fast as I want to go, but it's for a higher good and I see the light in it. So it's not like what's it called? It's a spiritual inner tantrum. It's a conscious tantrum. That's what he calls it. John says I have conscious tantrums. So that's I'd say impatience.
Well, that sounds so much nicer than unconscious tantrums.
Yeah.
And you, John?
Oh, trigger. Well, occasionally we talk to someone who I know we can help, and they're just so resistant. And then when I try to encourage them, they feel like pressure. And some people are just resistant to like anything masculine at all. And so I get doubly resistant even if I'm not doing anything wrong. And so it doesn't, I don't know if it's triggering, but like when I reflect on it, it's slightly frustrating. It's like, oh, I know I can help them. And so that's what it is right now or lately. That's what's come up.
Chanting and singing. Ooh la la, John.
I personally love chanting. Chanting is, I love doing it in groups. It's super helpful. I find it really, really amazing. It does something magical that you never would have expected. You're kind of uniting energy wins with everybody there, and it can bring a lot of great things out. So I personally love chanting. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I love chanting in groups and by myself. Well, I think lately, well, in the last couple of years, it's been in my car by myself, which I find I have the most breakthroughs doing that while I'm driving.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And I think we got covered religion, I guess what comes to mind, or religion, organized religion.
Organized religion. That's a loaded one.
It's supposed to be rapid fire, but then we got
okay, rapid fire.
Questions needed us to take space. Science one, I think, slowed us down. The triggers.
Okay, I would just say like the practice of discernment is key in organized religion. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
I had a very positive experience in an organized religion. And so I think when people use that label, they're referring to the ones that they've seen and heard of before in the mainstream religions. And I think that we should uncouple the term organized religion from the concept of the mainstream organized religions, because it's not the same thing. And so I think I would say give it a chance, but just find the right ones.
Discernment.
Discernment, exactly.
Ramadan Mubarak to those celebrating, I guess. And we
Yeah.
had Passover, Easter recently, and I think there was a Hanuman something as well.
Yeah.
Monkey God used to be one of my favorites.
Yeah.
What else? Breath work and meditation. We're almost done, guys. Thank you. Breath work. Yes. John?
Me first. Yeah, so meditation, super helpful, amazing path. I'm less experienced with breath work, but I hear it's really nice. Definitely everyone should try both.
Ditto.
All right, cool. And final, I wanted to ask about psychedelics. I think we covered those, and there's a ton of other things, but they don't seem as relevant.
Okay.
So just your last few messages to humanity. Actually, there are a few quick questions before we get to the final message and close, which is, on any given day, what makes you the happiest? Both of you. These were questions I used to ask in bars in my 20s and just everywhere in my 20s, and I really enjoyed them. So I'm just going to throw them out. On any given day, if you could tell me 1 or 3 things that make you the happiest. You know, you guys are always connected, but things that get you closer or happier.
Yeah. For me, it's like meditation, music, and nature.
Oh, I forgot to cover nature. I love nature. Yes, very important. Cool. Meditation.
That's a good one. I like her answers. I guess I would just add 2 more, which is being in my purpose as much as I can, and being of service to others as much as I can. Those are 5 things that make me really happy.
Just I like that you took hers and then nice, and you added a few more. And when do you guys spend the most time? So I used to have this question: what's your most consistent or persistent thought or set of thoughts? So your thought patterns, I guess. Sean, this time.
I find myself kind of going for refuge to my spiritual guide a lot, and essentially like asking, for divine support a lot. If I were to look at my internal dialogue, that happens a lot, and I stay with it as much as I can. Yeah.
So your internal spiritual guide?
Yeah, that term is probably not that accessible. So you can just say divine consciousness. Yeah, for me, it just has a particular flavor that I like to connect to it through. But it's the same thing. It's like saying divine consciousness.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Ms. Moon?
Yeah, I think for me, I like asking the question, like, what is my higher self? What is the guidance from my higher self? I like to ask that question multiple times a day. What does my higher self have to say about this? Yeah.
So very, very aligned on that too. And yeah.
Final answer. Just kidding.
What did you say? Yours is better.
We didn't know. She said finally
Fine.
something that
Finally, yeah. It took a while. You guys
have the
like
same.
working together, totally vibing, done all this stuff. It's like it took like an hour and a bit just to get to something you agree on.
Well, I think it's good. We're complementary. We're not. That's why we're working together, because we're actually not alike in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Our values are the same, which is why we can work towards the same mission. But I mean, if we were exactly the same, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. There'd be no purpose.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be one more person.
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot to ask about conspiracies and all kinds of things, but we can skip that.
Okay.
Nice, But the last thing is just a message, a final message to humanity. If you have one message to give to humanity, that's the 20-year-old version of my question, but whatever message.
I like to dance with it too. Feel like I want to
like
do a humanity dance.
Some motion, some headbanging.
For me, it's just love yourself and love others. That's my final message. It's super simple. Love yourself and love others.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'd say seek out and listen to mentors, including your higher self and whatever guidance that you're receiving. That's the other. Yeah, I love what Selena said, and that's for me, mentorship, like physical people in my life, and as well using them to actually connect to the divine, guidance. That's the key. That's the other key.
Light and love.
Yes,
Covers it.
that love and leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry, and I love you. So I think that's
Yeah.
that's a good place to end
Yeah.
it for me. But
Beautiful. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much. This was beautiful.
This was amazing.
Mike's
We
falling off.
loved
But
it.
thank you. Bless you. Take care.
Bless you.
Yeah. Okay.